Hi there, Chicky Brew Brew here. Sorry it's been such a long time since we've made a video, but we have made some changes that are worth mentioning. About 8 months or so ago, I was reading an article where someone mentioned using equine pellets for their bedding, and I thought, in all of my research on keeping backyard chickens, why haven't I heard of this stuff? So I watched a few YouTube videos and I decided that I needed to try it. I've been using it ever since, and I'm really glad that we switched. So what I have here is a 40-pound bag of the Tractor Supply brand Equine pellets and about 3 gallons of water. What I want to do is cut this bag in a cross shape, kind of like a baked potato. And then I'm going to pour all or most of the water into the bag. Now I've always used a bucket to pour the water onto the pellets, but now that I'm watching the video, it seems like maybe a bucket's not the ideal tool. So a watering can, maybe? This way you can direct the stream of water into the corners, because that's where the bucket didn't really get the pellets wet. So when I opened up the bag later on in the video, there were a lot of pellets that hadn't absorbed any water, and those ones were pretty much just the pellets from the corners. If you've ever fed any pellets to animals, you know, rabbit pellets, I guess chicken food does come in pellets, but we use crumbles. If you've ever used any of those pellets, these are like big giant food pellets. That's what they look like anyway. But they're a really coarse sawdust that are compacted into pellets. So when you add water, it makes them expand and turn back into their dust form. That being said, when the dust is moist because of the water that you put on them, it's not really flying around in the air. So the mask that I was wearing wasn't really necessary for this part of the procedure, but I still had it on. There wasn't any instructions on the bag to let me know how much water to use, so you guys can benefit from my trial and error process. 3 gallons is what worked best for me. If you don't use enough, then the pellets don't expand, and then they're wasted when you sift out the poop in future cleanings. If you use too much, it'll get soggy, and if you're not diligent in turning it over until it gets dried out, then it'll get moldy, and you'll have big chunks of moldy sawdust. The first time I used the pellets, I was very conservative with the amount of water that I used, and I ended up with a lot of dry pellets that hadn't expanded and ended up wasted. So the next time, I dumped way too much water onto the pellets, and even though I turned it over several times to try to dry it out, I obviously didn't do it enough because I ended up with moldy clumps that were being sifted out for a couple of weeks. So 3 gallons, that's what I've come up with. But because I was still nervous about getting the water just right, I dumped 2 gallons into the bag when I was making this video. And then I reserved 1 gallon for use on the clumps that were left over. Now I see that the best plan is probably to use the watering can and direct the water where I want it to go so that those corners aren't left with dry pellets. One thing I've learned about bedding, and this applies no matter what kind of bedding you're using, is that you really only need to put it under the roosting bars. But I guess I can only speak to what works for free-ranging chickens, because my chickens only go into the coop to get to the nesting boxes and to sleep, so I found that I only need to put the bedding under the roosting bars. I wanted to talk a little about the cleaning and the price point, because this is where using pellets gets really interesting. In my previous video, if you saw that, the process was scooping out the bedding along with the poop from under the roosting bars weekly, and that resulted in a full bucket of waste. The monthly full clean out, when I swept everything out of the coop, that resulted in about a wheelbarrow full. The process of cleaning up week to week is similar, though rather than scooping out dustpans full of bedding and poop, I'm using a cat litter box scooper and removing just the clumps of poop and leaving the clean litter behind. The bucket is only about a quarter of the way full when I'm finished, and it's mostly just poop with a little bit of sawdust stuck to it. Based on the look and the smell of the coop, I no longer even do the monthly full clean out. I found that I'm able to wait until about the 6-month mark when I really want to change out all the litter. About halfway through, so around about 3 months, I found that the litter is getting a little bit low and I just topped it off. So I used about a half a bag of pellets to top off the litter at about 3 months. Now I don't want this part of the video to be misleading. This particular cleanup was after 1 day because I had just done the 6-month full clean out and the litter was new and ever so slightly damp. And so I wanted to turn it over. So imagine those piles of poop about 6 times bigger. I probably don't have to say this, but I'm sure that you know that the amount of waste that you're cleaning up is going to be directly proportional to the amount of chickens that you have roosting in your coop. Okay, price point. This is where equine pellets start to make really good sense. I'm going to use the Tractor Supply website prices at the time of this video for math's sake. The price per bag for the equine pellets and the shavings, both Tractor Supply brand, are exactly the same, $5.99 per bag. I used approximately half a bag of shavings per week and a full bag once per month during the monthly cleanings. So, in 6 months' time, I used approximately 15 bags of shavings, costing us approximately $89.85. That's before tax. So on the other hand, I use 1 full bag every 6 months of pellets. I top off with half a bag at 3 months. So the pellets are costing approximately $8.98 before tax, saving us $80.97 before tax. Not to mention the hours I'm getting back monthly for not needing to do that full clean out. So even if there wasn't a dramatic price difference between the two, I would switch just for the time savings alone. So in the end, I'm going to have to go back and slow down some of the parts of the video that I sped up because I've spent so much time talking and I still can't say enough good things about these pellets. But here's my top 3 list. They smell good. Especially when you first put them down, they smell very good. Even with a week's worth of poop sitting in there, my coop smells better than it did with the wood shavings. So I'm pretty happy with the way it smells and how easy it is to clean. They save me money. Best of all, they save me time. So if you're like me and you've never heard of them, or if you've heard of them and you've just wanted to try them and you never have, I would say give it a go because I'm pretty happy with the way it's worked out in our coop. So thank you for listening and have a great day.